football, the red zone is where a team has to make small adjustments to ensure victory. As you approach retirement, you also need to make small adjustments to ensure success. This is the Red Zone Retirement Program with registered investment advisor and enrolled agent John Mears of Mears Money Management.
All right, it's time for a little New Year, New Me conversation with Coach Mears here on the podcast. You know, John, everybody does, the last couple of years, the buzz phrase has been New Year, New Me, right? When the new holiday, when the new year rolls around. So I thought we'd do that as well. And while you and I probably, need to renew our gym memberships, we'll probably talk about finance instead from a New Year, New Me standpoint. How you doing, my friend?
Very good, very good. And I do have a New Year's resolution when it comes to getting in better shape. So that is something that I think as we get older, we kind of have to diligently think about is our physical well-being as well. And
it's tough.
So that is something, but yeah, we're here to talk about finances, and there's a lot of things that people can use this as an opportunity to kind of rethink some of the things in their financial lives. So
Absolutely.
That's our topic for today.
Absolutely. So. Well, if you got questions, need some help, check the show links in the description below this week's episode to reach out to John. You can find him online at bookachatwithjohn.net. That's bookachatwithjohn.net. And what I'm going to do, John, is I'm going to set you up with, I'm going to give you the old you, okay, kind of thought, and then you give us the new you, mentality, right? To paraphrase Bill Murray in Caddyshack. So, I met the Dalai Lama. So he said, when I die, I'll have spiritual understanding, and so I got that going for me, right?
Classic movie too,
that's
by
right.
the way.
Good stuff. And I know I screwed that line up, so don't yell at me in the comments below. But that's all right. We're gonna do it. All right. So the old you, Coach, might say, "I know I live beyond my means. I'm overspending." Kudos if you are saying that to yourself, because that's the first hurdle, right? But what should we be thinking about if we're trying to get into the new you?
So that's a great question, and that is something that will require a little bit of help. I think perhaps from a financial advisor. We're not really psychologists, and we're not, but that might be where we can step in.
But you play one in your office.
Yes, yeah, I did, and I did say it at Holiday Inn Express last night.
That's right.
But this is something that I have had a client there, and I won't mention her by name, so we'll call her a generic name. We'll call her Susan.
Okay.
She had worked hard. She had saved up money into her 401k. She had her pension, and she retired, and she kept overspending, and she was refinancing her property, and she was she just kept spending. I kept warning her that this is unsustainable. And a little bit like Jessica Rabbit, she kind of knew she was being bad, but she just couldn't help it. And then
she's just drawn that way.
When the grandkids, when the grandkids came asking for us, she was always being very generous. However, at some point we have to have that talk, and that's where an advisor can come in and help you, where we really can do the black and white numbers. And we can actually put some modest restrictions on your account as well, so that you're not just blowing through everything. Now,
if you're really bad, and you need that kind of help. But I mean, for a lot of people, John, maybe it's something as simple as just realign your priorities, right?
Correct.
Maybe like a wants versus needs list, maybe, or something.
Yes. So this is one thing I talk to people all the time when we talk about the B word. The budget. And that is where we have to have our needs, and that includes your utilities and stuff like that. We have to start there. And then we get to the stuff that you like to have, but don't have to have. And then there's always frivolous stuff. Sure. And I do believe in going through, when somebody's onboarding here, we actually go through the bank statement. We go through a bank statement or two and your credit card statement, and we just put a plus, a zero, or a minus next to everything, just saying, okay, plus I have to have it. A zero and a minus is, and we all joke about this. The typical thing is the gym membership you never use. Here, we get back to those New Year's resolutions.
There you go.
But
nice.
That's kind of but you're looking at, we all have that subscription. We see those commercials on TV. We have subscriptions that we never use.
Yeah.
Or we spent money on something and you look back and kind of regret it. And so that's maybe something to put a little tamp on is, to keep that to a limit is the things that you're just blowing that you don't, and that might be something where, and I had this agreement with yet a different client. Hey, whenever you're going to spend money beyond our budget, go ahead and ask me, and I'll give you the blessing. But that way we can kind of talk through it and kind of slow things down a bit.
Sure.
But yeah, prioritizing is huge, and talking about the B word is important. But this client, unfortunately, actually never got the message, and we actually ended up having to part ways at some point because she couldn't quite do it. She kept going, and I tell people, in a very nice way. I'm not going to be the captain of a sinking ship. And at some point, I had to tell her that we are not aligned, unfortunately, philosophically. That she was just going to run out of money, and I did not want to be part of that. And I gave her kind of a, whatever you want to call it, a period of time where she could be on probation, if you will, and she just couldn't do it. And so she knew where she was headed, unfortunately.
If you're thinking about that, somebody's like, well, hey, it's your job to help us get better. It's like, well, yeah, but you can only coach somebody for so long. And if they're not, and maybe in some ways, just like finding a different doctor and their delivery method or whatever, hopefully she went on to find somebody who did reach her and get through to her, and she's in, better shape. Right.
And that's what I talked to her about. We're all grown-ups here. So I told her, perhaps my messaging isn't correct. So I did actually have a referral for her. I did tell her, hey, this is somebody you can go to, and perhaps he can help you better than I can because I'm too tough.
Well, we talk topical, we talk sports and stuff on here as well. And at the time we're doing this, it's an interesting conversation. Like all the buzz right now in some of football, even though it's, obviously the playoffs, is whether Dion and Jerry Jones might get together out in Dallas, right? And the message winds up being, you got, to our conversation that we just had, can, Jerry step away enough to allow Dion to do what Dion's been doing in Colorado? And the consensus seems to be that probably not, because he likes to run the team the way he likes to run the team. Back to this point with you kind of knew going into it, you tried, you did the coaching, it just didn't work. She just didn't take the messaging. So maybe she'll have success with a better team, right? If you will. So kind of tying that in there. Plus we get to talk sports. All right. So that was our first New Year, New Me. And let's go to our second one here. So this one might be more for our people that are actually a little closer to retirement, or maybe even already into retirement, right? To check out the podcast and the video podcast. It's the diligent saver, the person who spent, like the old them is like, man, I saved, but it's to a fault. And now I don't know how to enjoy retirement because I don't want to spend this money I worked my tuchus off to get saved. That's a real challenge for people, isn't it?
It is. And again, I have a real life example with a client, and we'll call him George. But this is something that we have worked on. And to his credit, he has gotten better at this.
Good. He's enjoying himself.
He had saved so well. He was from very, very modest means and had just done a fantastic job. He and his wife saving over 25, 30 years. He's able to retire a little bit early, did a fantastic job. He's a great guy, but he was scared. That's what it is. It's fear. That's what it is. It's fear. And so people they've done such a good job and have lived this lifestyle this way. And so I end up just doing the math saying, by the way, for you to run out of money, you would have to be spending, and I forget what the number was, but some extraordinary amount, and he's a modest guy living in a regular house in a regular neighborhood. And I told him, you'd have to spend $40,000 per month to run out of money. And that was just so far beyond where he would be. But
that's not the kind of person he is. Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of helped him understand that you're not going to run out of money. That doesn't mean we want to blow it all, kind of like our first person we talked about. But so he has now started to take a couple of vacations. And I told him, you don't have to stay at, the 5-star resort. You don't have to do that. But, we talk about the go-go years. He's now taking advantage of that. So he had this issue probably a year or so ago, and we actually were able to do our New Year's resolution, which was to enjoy life a little bit. It is finite. And as we've seen with the recent fires in California, stuff happens, and we are never guaranteed tomorrow. So
for sure,
we got to take advantage of it.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that he's starting to enjoy that a little bit more, because you have worked so hard to get there. But I do get it, right? Like if you spent 40 years cranking down on like, I'm diligent, and then you get there and you go, I don't see the account go down. I love where it's at. But you got to enjoy yourself. And I think that's where the beauty of reviews and seeing it in black and white come into play, because you can be like, okay, I went and spent some, let's say you even did a quarterly or even an annually review, a semi-annual review, right? And it's like, all right, I'm a little nervous, so I'm going to spend a little bit. I'm going to take your suggestion, John, and then I'm going to see where I'm at. They come back in for that review. They see the numbers are still looking good. And it's like, it helps, right? It helps you kind of get over that hump.
Yes. Definitely. And that is something the way I do my guardrails, where we kind of say, okay, you have an account worth this much, and this is what you can take out for in perpetuity. And when you take a vacation and you realize that doesn't change anything, that helps people feel a little bit more.
A little bit better. Very good. Well, again, if you need some help with that kind of stuff, folks, again, reach out to Coach and have a conversation, book a chat with John Get yourself on the calendar. All right. So old you, the old you might be one of these people that says, I got to be honest. I don't know what I have and I don't know where it's at exactly. And don't feel bad because there's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of people out there. They don't know what they have and where it's at and what it's doing for them. So the new you, says, hey, I want to get more fiscally responsible. Like I'm pumping money away into a 401k or whatever, but I don't really know like what I'm doing with it. Right.
Yeah. So again, I have some real life examples here. I have a couple clients right now that are going through this. I see this oftentimes when people inherit accounts. And their parents may have multiple accounts, and then they're inheriting, and then they don't know what's here, and the parents have had it at this place and that place, and I've had people legitimately good people just going, I don't know what I've got, and so that's one thing that we do here is we do on an annual basis. We'll do a net worth statement, and so we kind of work through this with people just so they can kind of see what they have, and this is why I also believe in consolidating at some point, not because we're greedy here. We're trying to, have your entire book of business, but because it just helps you track things a little bit better. You can hold me accountable. You can hold
there's
yourself
everything
accountable
out there now you can get into. I mean, to your point, like with all the subscriptions, well, you can also do that with accounts. You could have a myriad of accounts and be like, people think it's funny, maybe listening to this go, how do you not know that you've got money someplace? But you'd be shocked. Like that happens often.
Absolutely. I've absolutely seen this happen with people where they didn't know. Now, I've never seen them lose like $1 million account, but I've seen people not know they had a $30,000 account.
That's sizable, man. That's not chicken feed,
Yes, that's real money. That's adult money. And so people have not known that they've had it. And then we're kind of going through things. Oh yeah, this is what we found. So, and a lot of those would be those 401ks when you've left an employer. It's been dormant. You haven't seen it for years. And so when it used to be when the account was less than $10,000, the employer could force you to take it. Now they can't. And so it's just sitting out there and people move on from an employer to another employer and they forget it.
So what's something we could do, right? Just something simple. Should we just start like kind of making a list of things or, what's some like easy action steps?
Again, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you definitely have to keep track of that. If you're going to spreadsheet it or just keep it all in a certain file folder, I'm a file folder nerd. So I have everything in file folders, even today when we can scan everything in. I got hard copies of a lot of stuff here. But then again, if you're working with an advisor, that's something we can do as an advisor. We can, and I continually quiz people, and then I give them a what I call an asset map, and they can kind of see in a picture form all the stuff that they have, their spouse has, jointly, all that they have, and we can kind of go through that. And I tell people, if we're incorrect, if we're missing anything, just handwrite it in and send it to me. Just take a photocopy it and take a look. But we are diligent about this. But again, it's if you're doing it yourself, there are opportunities for missing stuff, and that's why I do think as a New Year's resolution, you have to constantly work at this. Again, a lot of people they don't understand that. You're like, I know where my last penny is. I get it. Some of you out there are like that, but there are many
who are not. Yeah,
they're non-financial people. They're out there working their butts off, and they're just not thinking about all this stuff all the time. But you need to. It's your money. You've worked hard for it. Check it out.
Very true. And you mentioned something I wanted to address since we, this is the middle of the month when we're dropping this episode. And it's like, well, New Year's resolutions already 2 weeks in, blah. Well, there's a reason I waited to do it on this particular week because of Quitter's Day. That's a real thing. You've probably seen commercials about that. So it's like, okay, look, you probably did a resolution for a couple of other things, weight loss, gym, whatever. And many people quit already. I think January 16th, is actually the day and might be the day we're dropping this podcast. So, I thought, well, let's wait till the middle of the month, right? And then we'll do this. And that way it maybe kind of psychologically, kind of almost like a sophomore quarterback, right? Go back to football. You and I were just talking about some of the great players in the NFL who come from your area that you guys are in, like Jaden Daniels out in Washington right now, who's playing fantastic. Well, he's a rookie, right? Mm-hmm. Well, might he have a sophomore slump? We don't know. We'll see, right? Mm-hmm. So same kind of idea with this podcast. I thought, well, let's wait. We'll do it in the middle of the month. And then that'll kind of weed out the sophomore or the freshmen, and we'll get right to the sophomores.
Yes, that's a great analogy. Yes.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm winging it. All right, so let's go to the next one. Old you. You find yourself being one of those people who will just go into the election in this past November. A lot of people, surprisingly so, saw a lot of emails come through to different financial folks I'm worried about the election. We'll just use that as the piece. I'm going to pause my investments. I'm going to pause putting money in or putting money away from my future until things settle down. You're the I'm going to wait till things settle down kind of person. When the hell is that? Right? I don't know about you, John, but since 2020, I don't know that anything has settled down. I mean, just going back 5 years, it's been nonstop. And if you did, what did the S&P do, Coach, the last 2 years?
Went way up.
Way
so
up.
yeah, you lost out on a lot. And I do run into this with people that are even current clients of mine that go through this. So there's a lot to unpack here, and I'll try and be brief here. But one of the things that we have proven, again, we've done the pictographs of this, is that doesn't matter who's in charge, the market goes up and up and up and up and up over time. Over time, the market is always volatile in the short run, but it has been up over time. So that is one of the things we have to explain to people. But when the market goes down, people tend to get scared. They'll either get out if there's even the slightest drop. I have a client of mine, we'll again call him George. Now, this guy's super smart. He's smarter than you and I combined. He makes very good money, and he has literally millions of dollars in his accounts. He is a guy that got out at one point, not even during the pandemic, but this is at some drop subsequent to that, just a little bit of a dip. And he took a couple years to get back in because he was scared and lost out on all sorts of growth. And he even comes to us again, like this confessional here. He even knew that he had kind of screwed up when he came to me. He's like, ugh. I go, where's your money? In the money market. In the money market? Yes.
Doing very
he
little.
knew it. He knew he was being awful about that.
Yeah.
There's yet another client I'll be meeting with soon. He has been very scared to put additional money into his accounts because he's just afraid of the drops. He's afraid of the drops. And so we work with him all the time. He does put a little bit of money in, but not as much as he could be. He'd be far better off if he was a little bit more assured of how things were going. And there's no such thing as certainty in the market.
Well, let's focus on that worry when the drop. Okay, so we just mentioned the fact that the S&P has done really well the last 2 years. Okay, so it's 20+% return the last 2 years. And I was just reading some of the prognostications for 2025. Is that we're going to break some eggs. We're going to have some stumbles along the way because Trump's going to come in. He's going to make a lot of changes to try to start getting some things, hopefully, on the right path. But in order to get things moving, you have to break it. You have to break a few eggs to get the omelet rolling, right? So the conversation is maybe the first quarter, maybe the first half of the year is down, but overall they're still saying 8 to 10% potential growth in the S&P. We'll just use the S&P for 2025. And I heard somebody go, wow, only 8 to 10? It's been into 20. And I thought, what do you mean only 8 to 10? 8 to 10 is great, right? The 22% year over year should scare you more because at some point, when does the shoe drop, right?
Yes. So there's two answers to the question here. One is volatility, and that is a number we can actually determine too, by the way, in your account. We can determine how much volatility, and the volatility is how much the movement is in your account.
Right.
I would submit to you that when you're in retirement, you want less volatility, even if that means less return, because we are trying to mitigate losses when you're in retirement.
Of course.
We want to mitigate risk is a better way to put it. I do have a little secret trick though. If you are scared about getting back into the market or trying to dip your toe back into the market, you can always dollar cost average in it. That's what we did with the first guy I was talking about, where he had millions of dollars and he knew he needed to get back in, but again, he's just scared to put money in. So we set it up so it's systematically is going to be put in decent chunks, but on a monthly basis. And that kind of is making him feel a little bit better. So I'm not putting it all in at one time because psychologically that would ruin him. But he knows he needs to get back in. So we're just going to dollar cost average. Now, there are bigger numbers than a lot of people who are listening to this podcast can deal with, but he's putting in, $25,000 per month or more, depending on how we're going to get to this spot. But we're
Kudos to him.
putting big chunks to get back in because he knows he's been bad and he needs to get back in. So,
but
so
even if you're, but even if you're, for regular folks who are still out there working, right? And I see this with people saying, I'm gonna pause putting money in my 401k until things get a little smoother, in case the market does fall. Man, that's crazy because your dollar cost average, right? I mean, like, what if you're not getting the money match from your company because you're still working, so you're not putting in, so you're giving up that money. Then if it does fall, you're buying on the dip, so you're buying your dollar cost averaging anyway, right?
You're buying more shares. I've always told people the ideal way for your 401k to work is for you to be putting money in as it's going down, then also it skyrockets at the
Exactly.
end. Now,
Exactly.
That's simplistic. It won't happen that way, but you want the market to be down when you're investing shares. That's crazy. People can't think and wrap their heads around that.
Yeah, I know.
When the market goes down, if you're dollar cost averaging and you're looking at long term, that's actually a very good thing.
Yeah. Well, that's why you need a professional on your side. So we're going to wrap it up with this one, Coach, and we'll segue out. Old you is my parents didn't do much. It worked out all right for them. I don't have a financial plan. I'm just kind of hoping for the best. Let's kick that old you out, right? Let's go with the new you and all the things we just covered. Get with a financial professional, right? I mean, you don't have to be a Rockefeller. You don't have to be like your guy dropping $25,000 a month. You know, a lot of people can use the help of a financial pro. They really can.
Absolutely. And I think these are more complex today than they were when your parents were planning or even your grandparents were planning.
Yeah.
I do think that whatever advisor you decide to hire, they do need to demonstrate the value behind this. I always tell people I can pay my own way. I absolutely know I can. So regardless of what we're charging as advisors, if you're going to be ahead, and I would submit to you be significantly ahead, then why would you not use any professional in any area if they're going to be able to pay their own way and give you, 5-10 times what they're charging you? 2 times would be great. But that makes no sense why you wouldn't have a plan if you can get a return on the investment, so to speak, of what you're paying your advisor. So I think that things are too complex. Taxes are too complex. I spend most of my time just trying to wriggle through all the tax issues that people have in retirement, distribution planning. There's so many things far beyond just what's my return.
Yeah.
And so that is why I think it's super important to have a plan. And if you don't use an advisor, write one out yourself. At least have something written out that you intend on doing based on some of the topics we talked about today. And then what you plan on doing in the future. And again, you're probably not a tax advisor if you're listening to this, but talk to your own tax advisor about things you can do to keep money in your pocket and not in the government's.
Absolutely. Hey, and speaking of taxes, check this out.
John has a couple of free books, Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California, that reveal exactly how you can experience zero taxes in retirement and overcome the IRS lien on your 401k, IRA, and 403b, which could threaten your future lifestyle. These are complimentary, so all you have to do to pick these up 100% free is just stop by RescueMyRetirement.net. That's RescueMyRetirement.net. Fill in the basic info and he'll ship those out to you immediately. That's RescueMyRetirement.net for a copy of Diffuse and Tax-Free Retirement in California.
All right, Coach, that's going to do it this week. Thanks for hanging out, breaking down some of the new year, new me stuff. And we'll get back in another episode here in about a week or so. So if you haven't subscribed to us yet, please consider doing so on Apple, Spotify, of course, YouTube. Check out some of the shorts, hit the little thumbs up, ring the notification bell so that you get new episodes when they come out. And of course, hit the subscribe button. And we will see you next time here on Red Zone Retirement Program, Simple Investing, Smart Future with Coach John Mears. John, my friend, thanks as always, buddy.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time right here on the podcast.
Advisory services offered through Mears Money Management, Inc., an RIA registered in the states of California and Texas. California Department of Insurance License Number 0685203.